All right, good morning again, everyone. This is Nick Petro at the National Weather Service in Raleigh with your weekly impact weather briefing for Central North Carolina. And today's briefing is going to cover the period today through the 24th of September. Of course, there's a lot going on out there, especially, obviously in the tropics. So we'll give that a good close look here. But in the meantime, let's take a quick look at the weather pattern because, for the most of this week, tropics aside, we're in good shape weather-wise for Central North Carolina. Of course, we've got, starting with the early week period, you can see there's Jose out east of North Carolina here and out in the Atlantic. Now, of course, clearly that's going to create an issue for coastal North Carolina and the Mid-Atlantic by way of increased surf, maybe some beach erosion, and some frequent deadly rip currents. So, and perhaps maybe a few rain showers may move on shore as well. But I think impact-wise, as it relates to Jose and in North Carolina, it's going to be right there at the beach in the coastal areas. But for us here in Central North Carolina, we can thank high pressure that will stay over us. There's that high pressure there. I'm noting with the highlighter there. Basically early this week, the midweek, we're still under the influence of high pressure. Even later in the week, week's end, and really even right through the weekend. Look at that high pressure kind of centered right down the Appalachians there. And of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on Maria, of course, and what's left of Jose. And I'll get to more of that here in a minute. But as this weather pattern for the rest of this work week and even into the weekend for Central North Carolina, we're looking at mostly dry weather, and the pattern as well will support above normal temperatures as well. So we're looking at temperatures well up into the 80s, even perhaps approaching 90 for some locations. Anyway, in terms of severe thunderstorm potential, while we're not expecting any severe thunderstorms or really any thunderstorms in general, with that high pressure and kind of a really inactive weather pattern as it relates to Central North Carolina through the midweek period. In terms of rainfall amount, again, you can see the swath of heavier rain offshore as it relates to Hurricane Jose, and as it moves north towards New England, you can see that rain stays to our north and east. For us here in Central North Carolina, looks like pretty dry weather. Again, no rainfall amounts today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, even into the weekend, staying dry. And then beyond that, we'll have to keep our eyes on Maria. But anyway, moving on to the next slide. So what about this deeper look at the tropics here? Because obviously there's a lot of players here, and you could see certainly Jose, Maria, and Lee are the items of interest. First, starting off with Jose, and you can see, Jose is forecast to move north the next few days, and while it does, the North Carolina coast will experience increased surf and deadly rip currents. And then a notable number of the models show Jose looping back toward the mid-Atlantic coast over the upcoming weekend. And if that were to happen, Central North Carolina could see maybe some light rain early next week, a week from today, maybe a week from tomorrow, with little or no hazards or impacts, given that we'd be on the southern periphery of a weakened Jose. Jose would be much weaker at that point if it were to loop around and head toward the mid-Atlantic coast. So should that happen, again, some light rain early next week. That's Jose. Again, not to overlook or understate the North Carolina impacts in the next couple days, because if you're, again, folks along the beach, and if you're heading to the beach, or you definitely want to stay out of the water, frequent deadly rip currents, increased surf, rough surf, and perhaps some beach erosion as all that wave energy heads towards the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic. So let's not forget about that over the next few days. What about Lee? Lee has no concerns for North Carolina. That's a weak system, and it's forecast to basically just weaken, dissipate even. Then we turn our attention to Maria. Many of the ensemble members, and again, starting off with the official National Hurricane Center forecast track, you can see Maria is forecast to move generally in a northwestward direction. Excuse me. And as it does, it is forecast to strengthen to a major hurricane. And by 8 a.m. Saturday, we're looking at the potential for a major hurricane east of the Bahamas. And that northwest sort of track looks a little unsettling at first glance for us. I will point out that many of the ensemble members show Maria recurving east and staying well offshore after it moves north of the Bahamas. But those solutions are largely dependent on where Jose goes, and if Jose indeed does a loop and moves back westward. Okay, so those recurving solutions are dependent on Jose moving back westward. As such, North Carolina is not out of the woods, so to speak, just yet, as it relates to Maria. And we need to pay close attention to the tracks of both Jose and Maria. Because that'll really make the difference of what happens to us as it relates. The nice weather in central North Carolina this week. Overall, low impact weather this week. A little warmer than normal, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Enjoy that. Just really nice weather for us here in central North Carolina, right through the week and into the weekend. And then beyond that, we're keeping a close eye on the tropics. Jose obviously is going to bring impacts to the Carolina coast right through this week with increased surf and rip currents. If Jose does that loop and moves back west, that's in a way good news because that should deflect Maria offshore, and that would give us basically some light rain early next week. If Jose, doesn't loop back or moves east and continues to disappear out of the picture, that may in fact allow Maria to make a run at the Carolinas. So we're not out of the woods just yet as it relates to Maria. And we need to pay close attention to the tracks of both Jose and Maria.